Imagine, if you will, living right around the period of AD 70, give or take 1,000 or 2 years, one way or the other. And you've got your food probably taken care of because you are a good serf to a landlord, and you're going to keep about 3/7 of the food that you raise and give the other 4/7 to your landlord. Well, that's okay for your food, but what about your clothing? What about the very garments that you wear? How are you going to handle that? Back in the medieval days or before, maybe a little bit after, what do you do about your clothing? Let's explore that. In those olden days, you would probably be cultivating a flax patch, and you'd also probably have a flock of sheep. Right here is the typical flax patch. This one is getting close to being harvestable. If you look closely at this flax, you'll see the seed bolls on the ends of the seed, and that seed has multiple purposes. Everything from making oils to consuming as a seed to saving for next year's crop. This flax is getting close to being ready to harvest. Okay, so how is that going to help you with your clothing needs? Let's talk about that. After our flax is harvested, it's going to be dried, and it's going to go through a series of several processes so that we can extract this fiber from it. This is flax fiber, which came from this plant, the flax plant. At this point, the flax is still referred to as flax. Our next step after this is to spin our flax into yarn, which is what we have here. This is flax yarn, and once we've spun it, it's now referred to as linen. Linen is not just cloth fabric, it's also referred to, we also refer to the yarn that we get from the fiber as linen. This is now called linen once it's spun. This particular linen has been sun bleached to make it a very nice light color. This is the color as it comes from the retting process, and this is the nice bleached white color. We're going to be doing all of that in the next several weeks. Once our linen has been whitened like this into a nice, very light color, now it's ready to be dyed. And we can use any number of natural dyes for our nice linen yarn. We've used everything from coreopsis to marigold to walnut hulls. Indigo has been used. So many things we can use. And also garden huckleberry, which we're actually growing over there. We use that as a dye also. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then once all that's done, then during the dead of winter, when all of the gardening and farming is done, we will then weave it into fabric. But what happens if you are not lucky enough to be a serf, or not lucky enough to have a small piece of land like that? What are you going to do then? What happens if you're poor, or if you're landless? Well, let's go investigate what those people did. In those old days, you still had a few options open to you if you were in poverty, or if you were poor or landless. You could go out and get some natural fibers, which have value. They are quite sustainable in that you don't have to plant them. the serfs over there planting the flax, they've literally got to save those seeds and plant them each and every year, which is good. Flax is a very high quality fiber. But so is nettle. Here we have some stinging nettle. And if you handle that nettle properly, you can get some wonderful fibers from it. Usually you'll find your nettle growing on the edge of the forest. And you want to make sure that you handle it with gloves, like I am. Nettle is not only useful as a plant fiber, it's also a good source of food. We come here in the spring of the year when the leaves are very tender, and we harvest enough and we'll make a couple of soups a year. You do not want the nettle to touch you, because it has very sharp little hypodermic like needles on it, which will itch for several days. Here is just a sampling of nettle that we just now cut, and with my heavy leather gloves I'm pulling the leaves off, and I'm running my gloved hands up and down the stem several times, and then I like to test it to make sure now it's safe to hold, to make sure that I get those little needles off of it. So I'm just going to take a minute and get the leaves off of the rest of these stems. We're just doing a few for today, just to show you. I've been experimenting with nettle for fiber, and I'm going to show you what I've learned so far, which isn't a whole lot. There's a lot to learn. My primary focus is with flax and linen, but it's good to know about nettles. You never know when we'll be reduced to serfdom again. If that ever happens, we'll wish we had some of these old techniques and old systems in place that we would know what to do. Just have a couple more to go. It doesn't take long once you get going. I try to leave quite a bit of nettle so that it can repopulate itself. Here's one more. It's starting to produce seed. I'm going to try to save some seed. I don't know why. I think because I enjoy saving seed. It's challenging. It just seems like a good thing to do. There we go. We have a half a dozen or so nettle stems that we're going to take to the next step. So come along. We'll go do it. Okay, now we're home with our nice big bundle of nettle stems that we're going to get fiber out of. The first thing we have to do is ret the stems. It's important to know that nettle is a bast fiber, which means that there are 3 layers to this stem. There is an outer layer, which is like a bark. Then the middle layer is the fiber. And then the inner layer is the core. So to get to that middle layer of fiber, we have to remove the bark. Well, it seems as though the best way to get rid of that bark is to rot it off. And they refer to that step as retting. You'll see it spelled R-E-T-T-I-N-G or R-H-E-T-T-I-N-G. So anyway, what we have to do now is to rot that bark off. There are 2 ways to rot the bark off. One way is to tie it into bundles and to submerge it in a pond or a stream and let the water rot it off. That's probably the fastest way to do it. And the other way is to simply lay it out in the field or on the lawn, if you have a lawn, and let the dew, the morning dew, rot it off. We're going to use the pond method. We're going to take this bundle of nettle to the pond. Okay, we've arrived at the pond. Here we are, and we'll put this in here, and we're going to submerge it in the water of the pond. Put a rock on the bundle to hold it down. And we're going to leave it in there for maybe 4 days, 3 or 4 days, and we'll check it periodically. A lot of communities frown on pond or stream retting plant fiber because it makes a murky mess of the water, and those living downstream of the pond or stream find that the water becomes quite unpalatable. So most of the people back in the old days probably retted their plant fiber. By the way, the methods that we're using for this nettle is the exact same method we're going to use on the flax in a few weeks. And we're going to be filming that as well. So, there we are. We got about a 3 or 4 day wait on that. Today is Friday. So, right around Tuesday, we'll check up on that. Well, I thought I'd show you what I've learned so far. Not a whole lot, but I'm learning. These are some stems that I've already harvested and cut, and retted. And then I dried them. And if you look really closely, you can see the fibers just coming off of these stems. So then how can we get this fiber off of the stem? I've done a little bit of research. There are some videos on YouTube, good old YouTube. Look at that fiber. It just wants to come right off. But what I've been doing is cracking the stem all the way down the length. And then I try to take my thumbnail and I try to insert it and split this thing in half. And then you can kind of begin to peel the inner part of the stem away from the fiber, or the fiber away from the stem, whichever way you want to look at it. This is all fiber, and I'm going to collect it. Going to save it. The idea is to get as much of the fiber off the stem as possible, because it can all be used. People who are good at this can take this fiber off in one nice long continuous strand from one end of the stem to the other. I think a lot of that has to do with how well you've retted your nettle stem. I think I've got all of it off that stem. There's still some on this one. That's kind of the idea that I'm trying to do, except I want to be able to do it for the entire length of the stem. The longer the fibers, the better. Kind of like the flax. We have nice long flax fibers. Can you imagine living back in the day and you have to do this to get fiber, to spin yarn, to weave fabric, to make your clothing from? Well, if you were poor enough, that's probably what you did. Okay, so that's one stem, and from that one stem I'm able to get this much fiber, and I'm going to add this fiber to my collection. So I've been collecting all this fiber, and I'm going to continue to do this with more and more of these stems throughout the summer. And then maybe this fall I'm going to refine these fibers further and see about spinning it into a yarn. I think that'll be a lot of fun, don't you?